Welcome, everyone. This is Terry Palma with my co-host, Bev Thompson, and you're listening into Conscious Gatherers. And we're here for a half an hour to basically talk about whatever we want to, and you can ask questions about anything you want to. But in most cases, it's going to be obviously about consciousness and moving the consciousness into a positive area. And again, even if we don't touch on a subject that you have a question for or about, you're welcome to bring that up when we give the question and answer period, which will be about 20 minutes from now. So in order to make sure that we have no background music and noise, when you come in, just hit *6. That'll mute you from any background noise. And then when we open up for questions, hit *6 again, and you'll be live. Bev, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine, and welcome, everybody. Appreciate your being here tonight and sharing with us. I thought we would go over our intent. Terry and I started talking a little over a year ago and said, let's do something like this. And it took us a year to do it, and it's kind of gone around different corners and how we were going to do this and handle it. And anyway, this is what's come up, and we're just very excited to be here. But what we really want to share with all of you is for everybody to awaken to their true identity as a soul. And who are we? And as a part of creator of all that is, I've been told that over and over and over again. We are it. We're part of creation. And so we want to share that and, to know that we're really incredible beings and we have immense powers. And we don't even realize how powerful we really are. That doesn't mean powerful over anybody, but it's powerful within ourselves. So I want to make that clear, and that's why we're doing this. Do you have
Absolutely.
More to add with that to that, Terry?
Well, no. I think tonight I'm gonna pose some what-if questions that will kind of get everybody's juices going. Again, when she says we are powerful individuals, again, it's not powerful in the sense of over somebody. It's just that we aren't conscious. Most of us aren't. I mean, there are those out there that are aware of who they are and what we really are. But even myself, of what I'm going to propose tonight in questions, it's hard to fathom that it is what it is. And but there's so much overwhelming evidence coming now from science to prove what I'm going to propose tonight. And so with that, Bev, I'm going to leave the curiosity and turn it back to you.
Right. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And what if? Okay. Well, I'm going to start off talking about that gut feeling. How many people say, I can feel it in my gut. That's common, correct? And they know it. And do they even realize what they're saying when they say, I feel it in my gut? And it's really recognizing more of their power, their internal power that is them. And they know when to speak or not to speak or whatever because they get it in the gut. Or when you've been, sometimes people feel like they've been punched in the gut. Something really hurt them. And you tend to bend over to protect that area of the gut. So I want to go just a little bit into this, and then we'll go on to Terry. Anyway, the term gut level is that space within our chakra system. And we really haven't talked much about the chakra system, but I think most people know they're energy centers of the body. So the gut level area is our second to our fourth chakra, which is the sexual chakra to the heart. And it's the location of our emotional systems. And so be aware of the energetic changes taking place within this center. And be aware of the deep internal feelings that emanate from this area. And it's been called the most abstract center of the human body because of its proficiency to underlie the intellect. Again, I got that gut feeling. and that does underlie the intellect. So our human bodies are just incredible mechanisms and biological mechanisms. And they're remarkable in our ability to shake off what I call, incoherent energies that don't resonate to our emotional center. Like, I'm not doing that. So collective humanity now is feeling the changes as these higher fields of manifested energies are moving into our gut area. And some of them are causing some severe emotional releases, or we feel like we got gut punched, or whatever you may want to call it. And then was like, what is this? Either you're not taking it in, you keep it outside of yourself, or if it's something that you have within yourself saying, what needs to be released from my body? And we've pretty much discussed that in the last couple episodes. However, when we're doing these releases, allow those changes to take place. Therefore, you can operate from your center, talking about the heart center, the mission control center, and we'll find that, we'll have some magnificent understandings. And then wisdom will be our normal operating procedures. So so that's pretty much it. And Terry, that may go into your what ifs.
Well, yes and no. I'll bring that up, but it's interesting. Okay. We have talked in the past couple of sessions about language, and you're talking about your gut feeling and your emotions. There's actually a scale of emotional harmonics or levels, the very lowest emotional level and language that goes with it, all the way to the highest that I learned while I was doing conscious language with Bob Stevenson. And so the lowest level is unconscious. You're just totally unconscious. And the language that goes with that is I don't know. And so to move up the scale from unconscious and I don't know, what you want to move the language to is what if I did know? So simply just changing your language from being I don't know unconscious to what if I did know moves you up a scale, it moves you up now into at least what Robert taught us is apathy. And the language for apathy is I can't, it's hard. So now we've moved up at least. We're not unconscious anymore. We're choosing to what if, and now we're at least said, well, I can't, it's too hard, it's difficult. So the language that would upgrade us to the next level, even though it doesn't seem like an up level, would be, I choose to make this easy. And then you're moving up the scale to grief. Well, oh boy, I just moved from apathy to grief. Well, but you're moving up. Remember, our language is helping us move up the scale to eventually we get to enthusiasm. So in grief, it's like, oh, I always, I never, that kind of language. That's what keeps you in there. And the way to get out of that is to be more specific about what your I never or I always, I'm always caught in this. Be more specific with specificity in that language. That'll help you move up the scale. And now we've moved into fear. Well, okay, what's the language for fear? Well, I fear, I'm worried, I'm scared, this frightens me. So, you can see that we've moved up 4 levels right now from unconscious until at least we're feeling some emotion here. And the way you get out of fear always is to love. You have to love the fear. Like you've been told in a hurricane, go to the center where the calm eye of the storm is. It's the same thing. If you have fear, move into love and the center of that fear. Own that fear, and it'll turn to love, and that'll move you right up. Now you're not. Oh no, fear's like now you're moving into anger. Whoa. Okay. So I moved all the way from unconscious. Now I'm to anger, and here's the blame comes in. They did it to me, right? I mean, anytime you're angry, it's not your fault. It's somebody else's fault. So the language that is, they did it to me. And what's the action resolve that? The language is forgiveness, okay? And loving action. Because as we'll talk about shortly here, no one did it to you at all. You did it to yourself. And when you're able to have forgiveness and loving action, now you're moving back, and you're going to feel the pain of all that emotional growth that you've had. There'll be some pain in there. You might even withdraw. And the language there is, I'm hurting. I hurt. It hurts. And again, like the last level, you've got to love your pain. You've got to go into the center. You've got to know what's causing that pain. And when you learn it's you, it's easier to love it and to move out of it. And finally, when you've done that, you've moved into enthusiasm. And your language is, you create easily, you enjoy and express easily, and you just move through the whole emotional harmonics of emotional growth is what we call it. And it's easy to find out where you are in that scale, because just you use those points. Listen to the language that you're speaking, or listen to a friend's language, and it'll tell you where they are, and you kind of know where they need to go. You don't need to back them up, right? If they're saying, someone's always doing this to me, I never, they're in grief, You don't need to move them back to apathy where it's hard. They've already moved past that, or you've moved past that. So that's just a key kind of to learn how your language tells where you are emotionally. Excuse me. And then how to move out of that into other languages. So one book that I recommend to help with that, you're not to blame, that you are to blame, if you want to say it that way, but you're responsible, 100% responsible for everything that you see or happens to you in your life. The title of that book is called Zero Limits. Excuse me. And it's by Joe Vitale with Hugh Lynn. And the subtitle is The Secret Hawaiian System for Wealth, Health, Peace, and More. And in this book, you'll learn how everything in your world that you see, hear, encounter, run into, feel, is all that you've brought it to you. It's your creation, and you can change it very easily. Once you recognize that, you move up the emotional thing so fast, it's ridiculous. And then the what if question, you know what? I'm going to leave the what if question to the end, Bev. I'll come back and deal with that. I think I've given you quite a bit right now to think about or people to comment about, so I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, there's a couple things that you had mentioned, and one thing that has been in my face is being specific when you ask a question. So if I'm doing a reading or asking something about myself and I want to get in touch with my higher self, God self, creator self, whatever terminology you want to use, and then I can't feel anything. And then I realize, I'm not being specific enough. And it seems like as we go further into our higher frequencies, we need to be more specific. And so when we're, contemplating something or asking a question, then to be real specific, then in our own minds, heart minds, that, wow, I realize I'm not asking, or do I even know what I'm asking? Because I'm not being specific enough. And then it makes me think about my question or pondering, whatever I'm pondering. And, it can't be so generic anymore, if that makes sense. So it makes you really take a look at what you're even asking for or asking about, whatever that may be. Another thing about, I can't recall the words you just used, Terry, but it's, it's being the victim, or you're always pointing the finger. If you're in that anger, they did it, blah, blah, blah. And then how that affects you because you take responsibility. And they come into your life to show you that, by the way. There's something that you asked for, and you're like, whoa, there's nothing there's no coincidences how things work. Okay, just lost my thought.
Let me comment one thing you said. If you graphically look at when you say you point the finger at somebody and blame them, if you look at that actual graphic of your hand, you actually have three fingers pointing back to you.
Exactly.
You have more going back to you than you have going out, which is always telling you something about how the universe really works. And it's really easy graphic to look at when you do that.
It is. Yeah. I mean, yeah. 3 fingers pointing back at you. Well, and then the other thing is, we touched upon this last week, but it's when you want to assist somebody, I always ask before I get involved, and I even had somebody say, "Why do you always ask?" I said, because I've gotten in somebody's field without asking, and it's not right for me to do so. So I always get their permission before I enter their field, their energy field. The other thing is, I've seen myself do this. I've seen others where they feel they know better, and so they're going to tell you how to do something without asking for your permission for them to tell you. And I call that arrogance. And I've had to go through a lot of my own arrogance to understand, like, whoa, I'm in their field. I'm blaming them for something because I know better. How do I know what they're going through? How do I know what their contract is? I'll get into that in just a moment. I don't. And therefore, it's none of my darn business unless they ask me. I may ask, I have something to tell you.
Here's the question. In that experience, let's use your analogy of someone saying, that you're taking in that this person is treating you like they know more than you and they're telling you what to do, okay?
Correct.
So the question to ask is not why are they arrogant, because that's what you're making a judgment there, right? The question to ask is what in me is causing them to be like that? Because if they're there and they're doing that, remember, you created it. Therefore, it's in you. And there's a way to clear that and have that be gone. But that's the question to always ask. When you perceive something, rather than judging, rather than putting blame, take 100% responsibility for your existence and everything in your world, and ask the question, what in me is causing that in that person? And then the way I deal with it, and you'll learn in Zero Limits, the Hawaiian way, is you simply say, whatever in me is causing that, I'm sorry, please forgive me, release it from me, thank you, I love you. And that's just what Dr. Lynn calls cleaning. And he says, all I do is clean all day long. And as you'll learn in the book, it's a quite remarkable story. But basically, he cleared out a whole complete ward of criminally insane at the Institute of Hawaii. In 3 years, he cleared the whole ward was gone because they had gotten healed and gotten better and left, and he never saw one patient. He did what I just told you. I did the question he asked of himself on every person in that ward. If they're here, what in me caused them to be here? I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you, I loved you. He did it for 3 years, and everybody left and was healed.
It is remarkable, isn't it?
Here we go. What if the reality is true that we create everything in our world and we control it, and it's as simple as recognizing it and releasing it? Okay, that is the what if for this week. I've got a bigger what if for next week, but I think that's a good one to end on for me for this session. Bev, back to you.
Well, that's a biggie.
It's not as big as the next one.
A lot to ponder. Because as I do have seen that with people, and I realize their energy. I've been very cognizant of if they have an issue, and then all of a sudden I feel myself feeling the same thing, that they may be complaining about, and it's like they invite it in. You see what I mean?
Right.
And then I go, whoa, I'm playing into that. and then I recognize that and I pull out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the exercise, what I'd like to challenge and leave with everybody as an exercise for the next week, number one, get the book, order it from Amazon or go to your local bookstore, Zero Limits, and practice that. If something happens to you during the day, that you're upset, angry, scared, whatever it may be, someone's annoying you, ask the question, what in me is causing that in the world? And then just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Release it from me. Thank you. I love you. And that's all. Just do it all the time, all day long, whenever anything comes up. And you'll be surprised of the outcome, and it's not an outcome that takes too long. But let's say it was a person that was challenged you. You've had a challenge with them for quite a while. There's only two things that are going to happen. And I've experienced it every time I've done this. Two things. Number one, the relationship will change. You never have to confront them and ask them about it. It will just change because you're not going to confront them with this anyway. But the relationship will change to a harmonic relationship, or that person won't be involved in your life anymore. You'll never see them. They'll be gone. They're not in your daily activity any longer. Those are the only two options using this system.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to offer that for people to experience this week. And obviously it might take you longer than a week to get the book and read it, but if you just practice, you're going to see the fruits of bearing that right away to come, or come right away, whatever the language is.
Conscious language.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. I love it because it makes you look at life in such a different way, and we create our own reality, correct? And you can see the people that come into our lives, and they may come in for a short time, or they may be there for the long haul. And what you're saying, if you go through the Zero Limits program, that and that other person leaves, they're obviously there for a reason, for you to see and to understand.
Yeah.
And for them, well, it's up to them. They can do what they want, but it's for you. This is your world. And when you recognize the loving world that we're actually in, it may be hard to see that at times, but then as everybody changes, then you can see how beautiful the whole thing can be, life. I'll leave it at that. Let's open for questions.
In the program, we're opening up to questions. So if you have any questions for Bev or myself on anything we've talked about now or anything that came to mind while we were talking, you can unmute yourselves by hitting *6. And then, of course, not everybody at once, but first one will take it, and then we'll go from there. So if anybody has a question, please ask and tell us who you're asking.
I don't think we have anybody yet.
All right.
But do unmute yourselves and speak up. And
if you have a comment or anything, that would be fine too. Don't have to have a question.
Any comment on anything we talked about, if we need to go further on it and deeper on it, we'll be happy to take a look at that. So, okay.
Great. So this will do it for another week, another episode of Conscious Gatherers. We look forward to seeing you and being with you next Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Until further notice, we're still on the numbers you're calling in on now. Again, if you ever want to have an appointment with Bev or myself, you can call this number. It's a recorded message. Just leave your name and number and the person you would like to talk with to set an appointment. That number is 864-999-3008. Again, 864-999-3008. We wish you all a great week. Treat each other with kindness and love. Until next week, this is Terry and Bev with the Conscious Gatherers saying good evening.